February 12th, 2019. It's a Tuesday. Guess it's been a few days since I last recorded. Can't recall why, but today's, maybe it's because I've been in withdrawal from not having class for 2 weeks. Last week was our week off from Charlie Varon's class. So I'm back and I'm feeling energized again. And I just wanted to record because this is the one class I didn't bring my sound recorder, so I don't have a recording of what I did. So I wanted to try to just capture the beauty of what happened today in the class for everyone. And that's this. And here's the thing, I've talked a lot about my struggle with therapy and coaching and, and stepping into those types of positions of authority and my own internal tension and conflict about those roles for me and my simultaneous fascination with studying every single modality I can get my hands on. And it's, and this particular mode of storytelling, I feel like I'm in this miniature hidden secret MFA program where Charlie has sort of decided to experiment and create this new form of storytelling that's kind of building on what we've been conditioned to do through the evolution of television and film, but using theater and exploiting the particular tools that theater has that television and film doesn't, and specifically solo theater. And he's just worked with such a wide variety of types of stories. It's just amazing to see him be so present with every variety of storytelling, because not everyone is doing autobiographical stuff. Everyone is doing solo theater, but not necessarily about their own lives. Although 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the 6 of us are doing autobiographical. And I live for this moment. This is what drove me to be a teacher. It's what drove me to try to, continue after I stopped being a teacher, to try to find a way to be with people and grow people. I live for the moment when I see people stretch and grow and break out of something and do something completely new for them and have that be witnessed. I live for that moment. I just love that so much. And I feel like my heart bursting open and I want so much more of that in my life. And that's what happens in these classes. Not that my design, it's not stated on the curriculum that that's what's going to happen, but it happens in the process of striving for truth. And here's the thing about here's where the difference is between coaching, therapy, and all things that try to rely on theoretical models and the truth of human experience. Truth of human experience is messy. That's why we seek the models to try to organize it. That's why we seek the experts who we think know more and can help us make sense of the chaos of our lives. But what Charlie's inviting in this form of storytelling is present the chaos as it is, somehow find a way to approach it that highlights the experience you as a human are having of that moment. Don't apply the theory and then give us a conclusion, which I tend to do. I mean, that's what our brains, what the world asks us to do on a daily basis, which is to be the authority and the expert and have it all together and stand up there and be put together and present a conclusion and sell something, sell a solution. That's what frustrates me about marketing, is that I feel pressured to sell a solution to something that I fundamentally in my soul, I feel, I intuit, and I know is unsolvable and maybe shouldn't be solved. That maybe solving it, the jumping to solution, maybe isn't even what our soul is asking of us in the moment that we're presented with this conundrum. And so this explains why I keep going back to different models, coaching, therapy, healing, transformation, whatever you want to call it, in search of something. And yet this theater experience is the closest I've found to quenching that thirst, which is like someone saying, no, don't solve it for us. Back up, slow down, show us you in the problem, like moment by moment, slowing it down. What's the experience of being you confronted with this problem? Let us see that, because that's what we've missed in our rushing around buying solutions and being sold solutions. And actually the way we're conditioned to receive stories by kind of commercial Hollywood, moral driven or whatever, solution driven stories, or product driven stories even, is that we're being manipulated into thinking that everything has a neat ending and that something's wrong with us if we actually struggle in the chaos or experience chaos at all. That's what life coaching is selling. It's like, hey, look at me. I've solved this problem. I have a great life. Here's how you can do it too. And if you're really honest, as a life coach, you know that that's not true, that you're selling a piece of yourself, but not the whole part, that you hide parts of yourself so that you can continue to keep yourself on a platform of being a coach. Like, oh yeah, I've had that problem and here's how I solved it. Oh yeah, I've been in that chaos and here's how I got out of it. Because if you don't really actually give that endpoint, how do you charge money to people? And I never knew what really didn't sit with me with that, sit right. I could go through the motions for sure and learn. I mean, if somebody teaches me how I'm supposed to tell the story, I can learn, but it never really fit the reality. And since I have insisted on alignment in my life, I've never been able to honestly sell that as a proposition. I have been able to sell being with people as they sit in a problem they've never faced before, and being with people as they step into a totally new experience, the unknown. That I know and I'm familiar with and I practice, and this is what creative process is. This is what we're being pushed to do in this theater experience. What is the edge? How far can we go? What new, completely foreign territory can we go to? And the amazing safe space that's created in these groups when we're each vulnerable, and then we step up and say, hey, okay, I saw that. I'm going to do this now. I'm going to throw out the script that I wrote. I'm going to go to a new edge. That's amazing generosity, because even in a professional setting where maybe people are competing for roles, there's like one-upsmanship, but that's not what this is about. This is about everyone has their own story and they're finding their own approach to something very unique and personal. And it's not, there's no way to compete because it's about uniqueness. So I wanted to say that it actually trains the listener of the story differently too, because when you actually give people, so I experienced it, the effectiveness of it, like when you slow down effectively and show the moment, the conundrum, without offering the solution or the theory or the model or your adult conclusion, the healed, evolved you, the mature, like just showing the confusion of a 3-year-old when the father says this, just show that. Don't even say anything about it. Just show the father and then say, I was 3 and I'm seeing this. Then something happens in the audience or the witness that's like, oh my God, like they're putting it together. So you give them this experience of like puzzling it out just like you are, rather than just passively receiving a lecture from someone that's saying, here's what my research found. Here's the conclusions, here's the data, here's the information, and this is what you should do with that. This is what it means. So you realize that that's so much of the flow of media that we're consuming is like articles written in magazines that have to like have this definitive conclusion that then makes us more anxious about our lives in some way because we're going to die of something new. And it's so rare to find something that just hits it on the head and leaves us feeling like, oh, yeah, I know what that's like. And there's no moral theory or lesson or instruction that they're trying to give. It's just like, hey, this is me and my experience, and I'm laying it on the line. And I think the reason that we don't see that is because of the economic models of how we've been trained to buy certain things and to value certain things. And we want our money's worth when we pay for something. But in fact, we're being cheated of a very deep inquiry and experience that we could get from witnessing another human being in their own inquiry. And this is the heart of why I'm doing this, why right now I've arrived at this form, this very raw form of recording thoughts in the moment with no rehearsal and no professional editing or lighting or any kind of production value. Because we are inundated with production value, and we think that life is produced like television and media, and then when we can't produce it, like we see in the packages that we get in every single facet of our lives, we can't even escape it because we don't even encounter other human beings in their realness because there's so few of us even living in a real way inside our own homes that we feel like we failed. There's something wrong with us. We feel shame about the reality of our human experience. That is the real tragedy of our time. I don't know if it's how specific and unique it is to our time, but this is the specific incarnation of it. And I am obsessed with dysfunctional family stories, but to share them and hear them in a room with people like of all different walks of life, where you look at them, you have an image of a person, and even, stories here and there, when they deepen and they touch something that's so alive and true, immediately there's a different quality of understanding and a different quality of connection to that person that cuts through everything that I ever thought about that person based on their image and based on like superficial stories or a way of presenting themselves. It just slices through all that in an instant, and I'm there. I understand in a way that's beyond words. And that's what we're going for. And that's like, and we talked about, because several people tonight talked about therapy in their pieces, and a lot of the pieces were about parents. And so we did touch on the fact that the inquiry through this form of storytelling is very similar to therapy, but the difference is we don't jump to apply a model in advance of all the evidence being presented. And that right there is what I was talking about before I went into my psychodrama. This past Saturday, I did a full-day psychodrama with 7 volunteer auxiliaries and a director, and I was a protagonist. And going into that, I wanted to make sure that my director wasn't just jumping to the tried and true models that she uses as a way to kind of shortcut or shorthand the understanding for most people. I mean, it can apply to most people. I was not interested in jumping to that. I was not interested in reducing things down. I was interested in expanding. So, and overall, in the drama on Saturday, I did get that through like amazingly generous presence from my auxiliaries and great directing. But, okay, the last part of this video is gonna be, like, all coughing, sorry. Um, um, but it's the reversal of that thinking that, like, "Oh, I need to be like, I need to look good here. I need to look put together. I don't wanna look like I have such poor understanding of myself that I can't see that I'm an inner child right there, and I'm feeling shamed." Um, I need to show like, I need to step out and say, like, "That's my inner child feeling shame because I read the book that said that that's what's happening." And that is actually the entire point of being a therapist, right? Is to, like, read all these books and to know what's going on at all times with your clients. Whereas the theater direction, at least from Charlie, is like, don't say anything about what you interpret to be going on. Show us yourself experiencing this, the bewilderment, the confusion, the anger, the inner conflict, the turmoil, the inability to understand what's going on in that moment first. And then later there might be a moment where you show your understanding, but maybe not, because maybe the whole point is to, like, remind us as witnesses and viewers and audience and listeners that, yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on where we don't know what the fuck is happening, and we may never know. And that's maybe a bigger part of being human than any of the outside world in our commercial marketplace is willing to acknowledge. Because if you're not selling a solution, you're not going to make the bucks in our world right now. So, um, this is what it is. Of course, I gravitate toward things that have no economic value. But obviously, the Marsh has been in existence for several decades. So there is a model, some kind of a model, nonprofit, but a way that a community of support is sustained. And it's a magical little tiny place. And right now, I'm not worried about how many other places like it are in the world. I'm just grateful that it's right here, and the people who are bringing life to it, like Charlie and Kenny, and hopefully I get to experience David someday, David Ford, um, are in existence doing this, and I get to experience it, and I'm getting this sort of real nourishment of my process from it. In a way that, I mean, I seriously was like, oh, should I really reevaluate my decision to go to the ASGPP conference? Like, can I invest that time and money and energy into, like, more classes at the Marsh? Is that a better use of my time? And that's something that I'm still thinking about as I talk about it. It's like, wow, I really actually need more training and encouragement in, like, this other way of keeping the unresolved open for longer, rather than more models that give me the false sense of satisfaction of solving something that could, perhaps should, remain unfathomable, remain in the mystery. And without making the mystery into something, which is like what this a lot of the spirituality circles are doing there around mystery, which is like the ultimate corruption. And it's like, somehow Charlie has such a love and fascination for the richness of every single story's possibility to touch truth and the mystery of truth. It's just so beautiful to witness. I mean, the variety of stories to which he applies this particular philosophy is pretty astounding. So, that's tonight, plus 5 minutes of coughing. Sorry about that. I'm just going to stay in that and stay in embracing the unresolvable.